Dracula got you down? Hope Summers creating too much energy? Afraid that Deadpool's gonna bounce back to hand? Well, I have the card for you. Meet Red Guardian, with the ability to target your opponent's weakest minion. When it locks on to target, Red Guardian will give that card -2 power and also remove all of its abilities. This makes it useful counterplay for a variety of cards in Marvel Snap, from stopping a Deadpool coming back to hand to preventing a Dracula from doing the Dracula thing with Apocalypse. It can even hit cards like Hope Summers, which tend to be played on their own in an individual lane. Priority seems to be a key part of playing Red Guardian. Being able to have priority means that you know what Red Guardian will hit on any given turn. Could Red Guardian be the answer to your problems? Find out in Marvel Snap. Whew. Whew, all those spins really took it out of me. So come on down to KM Best's Discount Red Guardian Emporium. You can pick up Red Guardian now for the discounted price of 6,000 tokens, which is exactly the same as the regular price. Red Guardian is a fascinating card with a variety of intriguing possible targets. What's going on, y'all? I'm KM Best, and I'm here to take you through the intricacies of Red Guardian. A baseline 3/3 with an ability that effectively makes him a 3/5, what's really going to make or break Red Guardian is his silence ability, which can target the lowest power unit that your opponent has at the location you play Red Guardian. In order to use him properly, you're going to have to understand how exactly he works, so let's dive into some technical specifics. Red Guardian can silence any ability, but that doesn't mean he can undo what the ability did. For example, if your opponent has a very large blob on the board and that is their only card at that location, you can attempt to silence that blob, but that blob is already going to have eaten all the stuff that gives it its power. The same goes for cards like Venom. It cannot undo an on-reveal. What it can do is hit ongoing cards. So if the only card at your opponent's location is a Devil Dinosaur, well, that's the weakest card there, and Red Guardian can give that -2 power and turn off the ongoing text. Now remember, it does have to be the lowest power card at the location, which brings us to point number 2. Red Guardian can only target cards that are face up on the board. This means he's a card that interacts very heavily with the concept of priority. Now, priority is a mechanic that isn't exactly explained in Marvel Snap. What it means effectively is your cards flip before your opponent's cards do. When you are winning the game, you will have a little bit of a highlight around your nameplate, and your cards will flip before your opponent. This is important for Red Guardian because it means you always know what he's going to hit. Since he can't hit face-down cards, if you have priority when you're playing Red Guardian, you get to just slam him into the lane, know exactly what he's going to hit, and that is a great scenario for you. However, when your opponent is able to protect the thing you want to Red Guardian with other cards, or in the case of, let's say, an Angela, able to make that card grow out of being the smallest card in the lane, that can be really bad for you. I think Angela is probably the best example of how this works. If it's turn 2, your opponent played an Angela, you played a card with actual power, you know that Red Guardian is going to turn that Angela off. If it's turn 2, you skipped turn 1 and 2, your opponent played an Angela, it's a coin flip for priority because nobody is winning the game. And if you lose that coin flip, that Angela is going to grow, and Red Guardian is going to hit something other than that Angela. In the current metagame, common targets for Red Guardian on turn 3 will be cards like Angela, Kraven the Hunter, Black Knight, and Deadpool. Later in the game, it can hit cards like Elsa Bloodstone, Hope Summers, who typically ends up played in her own lane, Dracula with his 1 power, and Iron Man with his 0 power. Red Guardian is a tech card. This card is a card that goes in decks as an answer to other stuff. But the real question is, what does it do in this metagame? Right now, it looks to me like a tech card for mid-range decks to beat up other mid-range decks. If both of you are Angela decks, but only one of you has Red Guardian, well, only one of you's an Angela deck now, and that's a big advantage to have. That is the kind of utility I expect Red Guardian to have. The real question is it going to be relevant into some of these combo decks as well? And I think when you think about combo decks in the current metagame, there are 4 that really come to mind: Mr. Negative, Phoenix Force, you also have Living Tribunal, and of course, Hela. Against Living Tribunal, this is a reasonable card. Against the rest of them, it doesn't seem like the greatest card you could ever have. Being able to instantly win one of those combo matchups just for including it is good, but it's likely to result in just less Living Tribunal, and then you still end up in a situation where, say, you are playing a 3-5, that's what Red Guardian effectively is, and your opponent is playing Lady Sif, discarding something big, playing Hela, and you're kind of invalidated just on points. Red Guardian, to me, is an anti-mid-range card. The issue he may have is there are a variety of anti-mid-range decks in the game right now. For example, there are Loki decks, which are very much anti-mid-range decks. There are a variety of Sandman-type Angela decks, which again are trying to prey on the other Angela decks. So the question for Red Guardian is just how ubiquitous is he, and is he good enough to run just on rate? Outside of that paradigm, there is one deck that I wonder if Red Guardian could legitimately revive, and that is Serra Control. Now, one of the issues that Serra Control has typically had is that it simply is not able to keep up with the decks that are playing Angela for points. You just don't have enough points to make up for that difference, and you end up using a lot of your space in this deck on tech cards like Enchantress, like Shang-Chi, and a lot of the good Angela decks are good at dodging that stuff. Well, one thing you can do with a Serra Control deck is use Red Guardian to make those matchups closer, and then bring Absorbing Man in so you have, against the combo decks, multiple Shang-Chis on the final turn of the game. This is the kind of thing that can win you games against Hela when the Hela player isn't expecting it. You also have the ability to go for multiple Shadow Kings against something like Phoenix Force, and there are some really compelling things that this deck can answer as an answer to the combo decks. The question is, will Red Guardian get it close enough to those mid-range decks that this deck can exist again? When I think about the card Red Guardian, it is a tech card, so it makes sense for me, for my immediate first place to go, to be slapping it in a tech deck. But I think you're going to see Red Guardian in a variety of different spots. This is a card that goes in a bunch of decks. I'm not saying it's going to be as good as Shang-Chi, but it'll be a similar pattern to, say, Shang-Chi or Enchantress or Killmonger, which is when there are things that this card is good against in the metagame, it's going to be the 11th or 12th card in a lot of just normal card decks where you're just playing cards for stats. So when I look at building around Red Guardian, I think it ends up looking a lot more like this. What can a deck that is not currently in the metagame do with this card to try to break into the metagame? That said, I mean, the most likely place you're going to see this guy is someone's going to put him in Silky Smooth, right? Like, that is the most likely thing you're probably going to see this card do day one. I just wanted to give an example of what it looks like when this deck is, when a card like this is actually built around. I think that's important. All in all, Red Guardian seems like a powerful tool to leverage to combat the scaling threats that Point Slam decks are using right now. I'm not sure he's one size fits all, but his status as an effectively 3-5 unit means that many decks that just want a reasonable card can try to fit him in. Thanks so much for watching this intro to Red Guardian. I've been KM Best. You've been phenomenal. Thank you so much to Marvel Snap for letting me do this. I really appreciate the opportunity, and I hope to see you all out there on the battlefield. Thanks.